It's time to get out to the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV, and bring in our friend Thor Nystrom talking about the NFL draft. Thor, what's going on?
How you doing, boys?
We're doing good, man.
So I wanted to start. We're getting reports today. Peter Schrager was on Get Up on ESPN today saying that there are potentially trades that could happen in the top 10, looking at Cleveland and maybe the Giants at 3. And James Palmer added on to that saying, quote, I know a team in the top 10 that is head over heels for Travis Hunter. They have been for a while. Any idea who one of these teams could be? And do you think there's a possibility that they trade up to 2 or 3 and take Travis Hunter?
I would say that there's 32 teams you could describe their feelings about Travis Hunter that way. So I'm sure teams are trying. You know, like if we were sitting in that seat, are you not going to call to Andrew Berry and just try, right, and just see what it would take? I would be beyond stunned if Cleveland did that. Travis Hunter, not only the best player in this class, we haven't seen something like Travis Hunter before. Don't get cute with this, Andrew Berry. Just pick him at 2.
Hey, but the thing about him, he's saying if they don't let him play both sides, he don't want to play football, which I think is just a lie. Will a team allow him to play too much on another side of the ball? Because at this point, they don't let people really practice today because they're worried about injuries.
Yeah, that's an interesting question with Travis Hunter. Of course, he's going to play both ways, and that's what he has wanted. He was playing both ways in the FCS. You know, some people are like, "Oh, why would he play both ways on his rookie contract and increase his injury risk?" Who's doing it in the FCS? So he's been talking about this for a long time. He wants to be the Shohei Ohtani of football. So he's going to get that opportunity to play both ways. But to your point, that is the interesting one here. The topical thing here is the amount of snaps that human body can handle in year one without severely elevating the injury risk. We haven't seen a guy like this before. This is a unicorn. It's something new. And so it's going to be your analytics department doing regression analysis of the guys who played the most snaps in all the previous years of the NFL. What can we find? Can we ballpark a snaps count per game that's not going to, go beyond sort of our risk threshold of where we're comfortable at with the injury risk there. And then, of course, the medical team as well. You have to protect Travis Hunter from himself. And honestly, you have to protect the coaching staff from themselves. Because if they had their druthers, they do what Travis wants, which is 100% snaps on both sides. Got to get a cap in there for the rookie season. And then we'll just see after that if we can add extra snaps to that in the future.
Talking with Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Life. Another guy that's going to go early is Ashton Genty. What spot do you see? It seems like a lot of people think that he could end up going to the Raiders. Maybe the Jaguars snatch him up a pick before at pick number 5. Where do you think he ends up going, and how good do you think he's going to be in the league?
The Raiders are the last stop on that 6th slot. That's the last stop at the train depot. If he gets there, that card's going to get turned in real quick. But the 2 slots ahead of that are pretty fascinating. It has been assumed that the Patriots will just take Will Campbell. Why? I haven't gotten a good explanation on that. Will Campbell cannot play tackle in the NFL. His arms are too short. We've never seen a tackle with wingspan that short, arms that short, even hang, much less succeed. Will Campbell's a guard in the NFL. And when it's like, why, you start asking the question of why would you take him in the 4th slot? It always comes back to, he was really good in the interviews, really good guy. It's like, I want more out of the 4 slot than that. I wonder if they are leaning into that Will Campbell thing with their sources so that more questions are not asked. And I wonder if there is a mystery target there, and it could be Genty. 5 slot, I've been told for a while that Jacksonville likes Genty. Would they take him for themselves? That I don't know, but it is a new administration. It is a new coaching staff and an offensive-leaning one. So that is in play, as well as a trade from a team looking to make the swing up the board. Whether to beat the Raiders for Genty or whether to beat the couple teams behind there for Tyler Warren. I've heard to watch out for the 49ers. 49ers have an enormous amount of draft equity. All these picks, 49ers are looking to move up, and I think the targets would surprise people. They want an offensive skill star, whether it be Warren, whether it be Genty. It's a team that plays positionless football. So the 4 or 5 slots are the really interesting ones to monitor for Genty. But yeah, if he gets to 6, that's a done deal.
We're 2 days away from the draft, and we've heard all kind of stuff from Shadeur being good, Shadeur sliding. People are, I guess, leery of him being Deion's son. All this. Where do you think he ends up going?
I'm going to say 9 to the Saints, and if he gets by them, I think there's a real shot of Cleveland in the mid-teens. Cleveland's another team with an enormous amount of draft equity. trading up into the teens to stop Shadeur's fall. Those are the two scenarios that I see playing out there. The Saints make a lot of sense, but I don't know if the Saints, if you're basically looking to quasi tank this coming season because you have no chance anyway. If you're going to do that, you probably wouldn't want to press the quarterback issue, especially with Arch Manning on the horizon. I don't know if we can convince Arch to come out after 3 years. The other two Mannings, they stayed 4 years, and that was not the NIL era. But they're making decisions on different things. But that's how I sort of see the Shadeur thing. I also think there's about a 15% chance he could go in the 3 slot to the Giants. 85% Abdul Carter. I still strongly lean that way, but the ownership group traveled with the coaches, the Giants, to Shadeur Sanders' last workout. And as you guys know, when it's a quarterback, that's when the ownership group gets involved with the decision. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to put that at around 15%. But assuming that Giants go Abdul Carter, I'm going to say the Saints.
We are familiar with ownership calling in and drafting quarterbacks around here.
Oh, yeah.
So that's bad memories on that one. But thankfully, we're fine now. Sticking with the quarterback position, what do you think the chances are that more than 2 quarterbacks go in the first round of the draft? And specifically for Washington, do you think that there's a chance that someone early in the second round that wants a quarterback would be willing to come up to 29 to maybe draft a Jackson Dart, or if Jalen Milroe or whoever it may be at that spot?
My thoughts on this have totally changed over the last 10 days to 2 weeks. Before, I would have said a 2-1 favorite outcome, or even a little bit better, under 2.5 quarterbacks. Now, I would totally flip on that, as kind of the Bucs have as well, to go over it. And one thing, where it tipped this off was the invites to Jalen Milroe and Dart to the first. Now, Dart was taken off the invite list, so I'm curious there if he declined the invite. Milroe's going, though. And I think between those possibilities and that, the Steelers being a quarterback needy team back there, and then the teams at the top of the second, you have a couple teams with the quarterback needs that are projected to go in different directions with the first round pick, right? The Browns and the Giants. Those Browns and Giants could easily, like I just mentioned, trade up. The Browns, if they can't get Shadeur, that's not a possibility for them. That trade up, you can do what the Panthers did last year with Xavier Legette when they traded. I think it was a 6th round pick to go from the 33rd slot to the 32nd with the Bills. Bills took the receiver they were going to take anyway, first pick of the second round, and Keon Coleman. They picked up an extra 6th round pick. You could see Cleveland making a similar trade like that, a slot or 2 up, so they can give the 5th-year option on Milroe's contract. But because of all those factors, I'm definitely going over 2.5 quarterbacks first round.
Thor, we normally are picking in the top 10 or somewhere close to it because we normally are not a very good football team around this town. We have changed that a bit and picking at 29. Who do you think Washington takes?
I think it's going to be a 2-way edge. I think I'm gonna say Shamar Stewart. If Michael Williams falls down there, I think it'd be Michael. I think Michael's going to go a little bit above that. I'm going to say Shadeur Sanders. You guys know edge is the biggest need there, and they don't want the one-trick pony pass rusher. They wouldn't have gotten frustrated with Dante Fowler if they were targeting a guy like that. They want the guy who is going to set the clean edge and play team concept football and run defense. That's Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart, the pass rushing thing, we'll see if that ever gets there. 4.5 sacks over his career, but the athletic profile, of course, is high end, especially north-south. He's an absolute load. And tremendous in run defense, which for me, that puts a pretty high floor on that prospect. People talk about him as like boomer bust. I actually don't think so. I think the ceiling's a bit lower than people think, and I think the floor is way higher because he's an awesome run defender. It's exactly what Washington's looking for. That would be the name I would circle.
When you look at the other side of the ball, receiver, running back potential at 29, do you think that they would go there over going with an edge rusher if they are enamored with Emeka Egbuka, or maybe if they wanted to go ahead and take Trevion Henderson if he's available at 29? Do you think that would be a possibility there?
I think the higher probability outcome would be if one of those couple guys, the 2-way edge guys, doesn't get there that is worth that slot. I think you bail. I think you trade down. And at that point, you can get to the top of the second, the 2 guys that fit really well, Landon Jackson and Nick Scorton. Both those guys are going to do exactly what you want there. And also, you would be in the position for a more acceptable to me slot for Trevion. Like, let's say that those 2 guys get popped in between, right? And so the 2-way edge still is not available to you. Trevion Henderson would be a great fallback option at that point. So I think that's how it will play out. Trevion, and I love the idea of bringing him home, of course, and I love Trevion as a prospect. I comp him to Reggie Bush. He's like a more aggressive Reggie Bush kind of. But I would rather do that early second because of the depth of this running back class. And then Washington, you have the other need, the 2A edge, and then, of course, the boundary cornerback. So that's how I played if I was Washington.
We hear this draft is not like most. I guess when you don't have a lot of quarterbacks coming out, it normally gets knocked down some. What is the position that you think is the best in this draft?
Running back for sure. This could be the best running back class the last 25 years.
Wow.
Right? Like so that one for sure the top. And then number 2, I would say interior defensive line. It's a pretty stacked class there. Edge is pretty close. Edge might be 3 or 4. I think this is a really good edge group, but those would be my top position groups.
Talking with Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Life here on BMitch and Finlay. Toby Altizer in for JP today. We always talk about the first round. Second round, Commanders picking at pick number 61, assuming that they weren't to go edge rusher in the first round or they traded down and did go with the Trevion Henderson, whatever it may be. What kind of options would they have if they wanted to go back in the edge market or even if they wanted to double up, frankly, if they wanted to take an edge rusher at 61?
The guys there, I would be praying that Nick Scorton fell there. I think probably that. JTT, the last name I'm not great with, but the Ohio State edge rusher, I think would be a fit there as well. Those maybe Jordan Birch as well would be one other name that I would toss out, a guy that could set the edge for you. But yeah, I would rather I want if I'm Washington, knowing exactly specifically what they need, it would be I need one of those 2 guys late first, or else I want Scorton or Landon Jackson in the first 10 picks of the second round. I think you need to come out with one of those 4 guys to address like specifically what your top priority is.
So off of that, so you think that's kind of the fall off, that if you don't get one of those dudes, that's kind of the end. And if that's the case, then you kind of feel like maybe they failed a little bit.
That's what I'm monitoring if I'm them. Yeah. Like, and I want to do it. I want to do it at the right price point. I don't want to take Scorton or Jackson with the first round slot, right? Like you want to get the assets at the correct price point. So it's a little bit of a 3-dimensional chess game, of course, and you're going to monitor that. And if you're watching and you're praying that edges don't start flying off the board, you know, like last year with the quarterback in the offensive tackle position, it was like everyone is jumping over themselves to take one of those positions. You're just hoping you're not in that scenario. I don't think we will be, but yeah, that's what you're monitoring. And again, for me, that first pick, you want to come out with one of those 4 guys, because then your top need as a team is addressed. You can then move on to the running back thing, be it the boundary cornerback. You feel you can get one there late second round. But the problem for me with waiting for the late second round for that edge guy is for sure one of those 4 guys going to be off the board. Then you have to go down to the next tier. And if you want to fix that, now we have gone in jeopardy of another season that being an issue.
If you're looking at this, if you're Adam Peters and you're sitting there, and obviously edge rusher is at the top priority. I think we've talked about that. It sounds like you're kind of in agreement there. What else do you feel like you want to walk out of this draft with if you're Washington?
Receiver, running back, boundary cornerback, edge. Those are for sure top. And then I think the next one would be tackle. I would like to get a tackle where we can kick Brandon Coleman inside. I think that's where he belongs. I think his game will play up there. I don't know if you can do with the picks. I don't know if I could get a guy day one that can help me with that. Maybe a developmental one with tackle, prioritizing some of these other positions. But yeah, that would be my other one.
Looking at this safety class, good safeties. Do you think there's someone that they maybe could target there at 61? Because you look at losing Jeremy Chin, they bring in Will Harris, but maybe they could find someone there that can kind of step into Chin's shoes.
I think for sure that's a possibility. I don't think Amanwari is going to fall down there. That could be Amanwari could go closer to the mid-second, I think, than people are realizing. But that could be one option there. As far as other safeties, the guy that I really like is he doesn't play like Chin, but I like Xavier Watts from Notre Dame because he's such a killer in coverage. I don't think he's going to be there. Maybe Andrew Mukaba. That's another really good coverage guy from Texas. He'll be there. That would be another guy at point two. But yeah, probably those guys. Safety, it's a little bit tougher because if you get boxed out of the Starks, Watts, and Manwari group, you're either going with the nickel guy or else you're hoping that you can develop a guy as a starter. So that's a little trickier position there.
Real quick,
go ahead. The corner from East Carolina is slipping me right now.
Siobhan Ravel.
Siobhan Ravel. What's his deal?
Ravel, coming off the season-ending injury he suffered in September in practice, but I think that guy is going to be had for a discount on draft day because of that. He was one of the most dominant press man corners that we had in college football the last couple of years, just totally shut down with that. The measurables speak for themselves. It's the reason he gets the Tariq Woolen comparisons there. Like I said, it's a depressed price point there because you missed most of your last season. You're coming off that injury. You're coming up from the G5, but that guy's legit. That for me, that's a late first-round prospect, and he's going to go in round 2. So I think there's definitely you're going to get a discount there.
A couple of corners that seem to be falling that were maybe consensus one of the top guys coming in was Will Johnson and Benjamin Morrison dealing with some injuries. Where do you think those guys could go? And do you think that maybe some of the flaws, whether it's the injuries with Morrison or maybe some of the play this past season for Will Johnson, will knock them down and maybe also hurt what they can be as players in the league?
Yeah, I think with Johnson, you're looking at mid first round. There is a possibility he gets into the 20s because of the poor athletic testing there. And on tape, there was some struggles with his back to the quarterback, which speak to that. In his own system, though, I think he's going to be awesome. It's a guy coming forward when he can have his eyes on the quarterback. He really good instincts. The trigger downhill, he jumps passing lanes. So very good for that. But he's got to find the right system fit, like I said. And then Benjamin Morrison. No idea. Benjamin Morrison, no idea because of the hip injury. And hip injuries, that's really where you are leaning so heavily on your medical staff and how did they see that stuff during the combine rechecks and that sort of a thing. Just because it's a hip thing, we don't know. We don't know with those medical teams. How are they seeing it, each individual one? So that Benjamin Morrison is a first-round talent that you would think would go in round 2. But if the hip injury, if that news is a little bit scarier and makes teams more trepidatious, possibility falls into round 3 and then just becomes the shoot for the moon thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Maybe someone can get a really, really good player there in round 3 if he can stay healthy.
Yep.
Appreciate the time, Thor. Enjoy the draft coming up on Thursday, man.
Hey, thanks so much, boys. Always good talking to you.